Om. That's a way of experiencing our oneness with the whole universe, with all of creation in the present moment. With people the world over, chanting the same words. It's all about being one. A couple of days ago, Reverend Victoria invited me to come out on the deck and look at what had arrived behind our building. A beautiful, pure white statue of the Buddha, sitting in a calm, serene, reverently handmade house, shaded by sacred forest. And it was beautiful. And my heart resonated with the beauty and with the rightness of that image in that place. And I have to say it also reignited a question in my mind that I've asked all my life and wondered about. Why, when we are fully spirit in ourselves, why do such representations of powerful teachers or people who have power over us because we love them and admire them, why do they have such power in our hearts? They obviously do. I mean, how many Buddha statues are there around the world? How many representations of Jesus or Yogananda or who else? Spiritual teachers, beloved spiritual teachers. There is something universally human in resonance with such representations. And it's not about worshiping the representation. It's not about that piece of wood or that piece of stone as an image being sacred in and of itself, for itself. It's a representation. And it's a representation often of a human, sometimes of an animal, or a bird, or a tree. You've seen the tree of life? It's a very resonant image. Why? So, I've just been thinking about that. Why? And, as often happens, when I ask a question, when you ask a question, I get an answer. And so an answer started to dawn, and I've been reflecting on that. And what I've also realized over the last several months as I've been studying unity principles more, and I've talked about them to you some, that ideas are powerful. Ideas like oneness, ideas like spirit, ideas like social justice. They're very powerful ideals. Ideas like Buddhahood, Christ consciousness, and they're all ideas. And we need ideas because otherwise we have no basis on which to interpret our experiences. We have no direction in which to move. But ideas don't light us up. Ideas don't arouse passion, determination, just, that vitality that is an essential part of us. Ideas by themselves don't keep us motivated to keep acting through the difficulties and the challenges. What does motivate us to stand up and keep marching or whispering or gliding or however toward what we envision? What is it that keeps us going? It's passion, and another word for passion is what? Okay, zeal, enthusiasm, and another word for that is what? Following your list? Your bliss. Okay, what is bliss? Yeah, list. What is bliss? Just a basic two-syllable word that is a complement to idea. We all have. That's one. That's an example. Thank you. Somebody said it. Thank you. Unless we feel strongly about something, we are wishy-washy. At least I'm wishy-washy. So the answer that came to me was, okay, what makes me feel strongly about something? For me, I feel strongly about resonating with the energy of the trees in the woods. That's a special place for me. I feel something powerful when I meet a very young, new baby. And I see that fresh spirit on an adventure that hasn't been swatted down yet. I feel powerfully when I look in the eyes of my beloved partner, wife. I feel powerfully when I see a photograph that excites either strong desire or indignation. Either way, both what we consider good or bad are poles of feeling. They are like two sides of a coin. I've said this before, that one comes with the other. It all depends which side of the coin you want to look at in the given moment. And what the photograph I'm thinking about came out in September 2015, I believe. I have never recovered from it. It was that Syrian 2-year-old. You all know the picture. This perfect child, perfectly dressed, lying perfectly dead on a sandy shore. A Syrian refugee. All of a sudden, at that moment, the concept, the idea of what I'd heard, of what I knew was happening to thousands of other people in that picture of that perfect dead baby. I had feelings. I still do, thinking about it. I became horrified and indignant. Feelings that have led me to hold in prayer and to support people around here who are welcoming refugees, and to passionately support the idea of kindness as a way of being love for everyone. That picture had that power. It was not a person I knew. It was a representation of a human being. That is how I now understand the power of representations of teachers, powerful teachers, that they give us a being with whom to resonate, with whom to feel. And therefore they are powerful because of the idea that they connect us with. And there's actually a scientific explanation. You know, I like scientific explanations. Apparently we know at least all warm-blooded animals, which includes birds, have as part of their brain structure something called mirror neurons. You may have heard of these, you may not, it doesn't matter. But they are actually a place you can find in brains that light up when you connect with another living being. And it can happen across species, I can tell you that. I've seen it, I've watched dogs and cats learn from each other by imitating. I've watched dogs learn by imitating people. I've watched babies transform from brand new, wide open adventurers within a year to becoming fully participating members of a human culture, a human community. Think about that. Holy cow. To think of another faith. Think about that. How can they do that? Mirror neurons give us direct access to our superpowers, leaping whole cultures in a single year. We all have access to those superpowers, and it's our mirror neurons that light them up. And when we experience, when we see somebody, and I'm using somebody very broadly, another being, mirror neurons light up. And we have feelings about it, about them, about what they make us think of, about what we share, and they help us to move toward where we want to go. They're based on love and admiration. It's when you admire somebody that you want to be like them. And if you don't admire them, you don't want to be like them. And I've known this for a long time as a linguist, an expert in bilingualism. You ever known people who've lived, well, wherever you live, for decades, but they came from another country? Anybody? Okay. Okay. So some of those people, doesn't take them very long, learn the language, the gestures, the facial expressions, the postures, the walk of the culture that they're living in. You wouldn't think of them as people who weren't from here. And other people, I swear, their accent and their gestures and everything else get more and more different from ours as the years go on. There used to be in St. Louis a guy who had immigrated from France when he was 20, and he was in his 70s. And he was a caricature of a Frenchman. Why? Because people gave him admiration for being different, for being French. And so he accentuated it. And he became less and less like the people around him. Our mirror neurons actually condition us to become like the people that we admire. And it doesn't really matter if we know them in person or we see them in a representation, because there's also the idea and what we admire. So, as I have been thinking about the fact that we are welcoming and celebrating a statue of a spiritual teacher into our community in presence, right behind our building, as one of the images, one of the features, one of the teachers, a representation of one of the teachers that most of us, many of us, do admire deeply. I've been thinking about, okay, so what does the Buddha mean to us today? And when I think of this community, I think it is a beautiful representation of one of the three jewels of Buddhism. If you've studied any Buddhism, one of the first things you'll learn is there are three jewels. The Buddha said, come to people who follow mindfulness, who meditate. It's very similar to unity, going into the silence, connecting with spirit. Different words, same thing. The first one is Buddhahood. Gautama, his name was not Buddha. Just like Jesus was not actually named Christ. Those are ideals of perfect humanity. They're archetypes. So Buddhahood doesn't mean you're worshiping Gautama. It means that you know somehow inside you what it means to be an ideal human. And you are working in that direction and becoming more and more that ideal, which is sometimes expressed in unity as Christ consciousness, but also be Buddhahood. It's the same thing. Secondly, in addition to Buddhahood, Gautama taught that the second jewel is the practice and experience of wisdom, Dharma. So there's Buddha, Dharma, and the third jewel that is a part of practicing that path is Sangha, S-A-N-G-H-A. And Sangha is a community of friends in harmony and joyfulness, helping each other to practice the path. And so I am preparing to welcome the Buddha as a reminder that we have the privilege and the delight to be experiencing a true Sangha. Even if we don't talk about Buddha very much, or Buddhism. We are a Sangha. We are experiencing one of the three jewels that come from practicing the spiritual path of mindfulness and awakening. And I invite all of you, after the service, to come outside with us and participate in the ceremony of welcoming the Buddha as a teacher to us as a Sangha. And so it is.